Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of the Sentinel Report. We just had so much that we had to share with you that we had to do an extra episode this week. We got some great people joining us on the program today. And also, Andrew Muller went out to one of the No Kings protests so that you wouldn't have to. So stay tuned for that. You're going to love it. Amazing what he found and what he saw. So don't miss it. Before we get into our episode today, folks, I want to start off like we always do with a word from the Word. This comes out of Proverbs chapter 2. Verses 1 through 5. The Bible says, "My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God." Folks, the fear of the Lord is absolutely essential, right? The Bible calls it the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowledge. One of the clearest passages on what that means, it says the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. So we need to do what we can to not just hate evil, but to actively resist it, expose it, and try to stop it. Obviously, the results are up to God, but he has given us a clear calling. We got some news today, folks. In fact, there's so much going on in the world. One of the big things on our radar is that Senator Ted Cruz has just reintroduced a bill that's going to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. The bill was filed after a nasty terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, where an Islamist, apparently somehow tied to the Brotherhood, set a bunch of people on fire at a pro-Israel event. The perpetrator, Mohammed Suleiman, an Egyptian, publicly supported the Muslim Brotherhood on his social media. And, the Muslim Brotherhood doesn't always use terror to advance its objectives. Its objective, as it has said before, is a global caliphate where all will submit to the Islamic deity Allah. But it is one of the tools that they use where and when appropriate. So Senator Cruz has said that this bill would be a modernized version of the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act. He had previously backed that, but Democrats, of course, weren't very serious about it. Here's what, and I'll tell you in a minute, that some Democrats are supporting this now, but here's what Ted Cruz said about this. He said, "The Muslim Brotherhood uses political violence to achieve political ends and destabilize American allies, both within countries and across national boundaries. The Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood is Hamas, a terrorist group which on October 7th committed the largest one-day massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, and which included the murder and kidnapping of dozens of Americans. The Brotherhood used the Biden administration to consolidate and deepen their influence, but the Trump administration and Republican Congress can no longer afford to avoid the threat they pose to Americans and American national security." Folks, Americans wouldn't be the first to designate the Brotherhood a terrorist organization. In fact, a lot of Muslim governments have designated it a terrorist organization, including in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. This came after a bunch of their members were elected to positions of power in Egypt. But folks, this is a very dangerous organization, and trust me, they are very active in our country. Interesting, some Democrat support on this as well. Democrat Representative Jared Moskowitz from Florida had this to say about the Muslim Brotherhood and this bill.
Good morning, Congressman. How are you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. So why are so many of your Democratic colleagues refusing to answer our question about whether they support your calls to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization?
Well, they may not want to talk to you, but they should support my letter to the president designating the call to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. First of all, there are countries in the Middle East that have done this years ago. And so Ted Cruz has a bill. I'm going to probably file the same language maybe with Mayor Diaz-Balart, who has filed it in the past. So we're going to make it bipartisan, and Democrats should get on board with that.
Thank you, Congressman. And do you have any messages to any of your colleagues who might be like Hamas sympathizers or support pro-Hamas talking points in the halls of Congress?
No one should be supporting Hamas. No one should be giving a green light to the behavior we're seeing in the streets or on college campuses. Nobody should be doing that. That's my position. They shouldn't be going to rallies that are sympathizing. They shouldn't be going to seminars or groups that are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. They got to stop all that nonsense.
Thank you.
Stop all that nonsense. Good luck. Right? The Democrat Party is now very infiltrated, shall we say, with folks who are not just sympathetic to this, but who actually agree wholeheartedly. Now, huge news last week. Robert F. Kennedy fired the entire CDC panel of vaccine experts. The NBC fake news called it the most aggressive action yet on vaccines. But folks, this is really encouraging, right? This is why Big Pharma was so terrified of the prospect of Robert F. Kennedy coming in, because now instead of Big Pharma stooges and evildoers, we may have an opportunity to put some decent people on there who will actually look at the real safety profile, who will actually demand real sound research and studies on these things. Folks, these people that just got fired, these were the highest level officials behind U.S. vaccine policy. A lot of them tied to Bill Gates of Hell, the World the World Health Organization. I always mess that one up. And of course, Big Pharma itself. Folks, millions of people have had adverse events from these things. And the data show that they are not nearly as effective as Big Pharma claims either. In fact, there was an incredible study funded by the Health and Human Services, by the way, done by the Harvard Pilgrim Center. They found that just less than 1% of all the adverse events are actually being reported to the government, which means the level of damage that's coming from these injections is just out of control. And it's about time that somebody start asking real questions and demanding real science. Now, Billboard Chris, you may have seen him. He travels all over with his billboards exposing the groomers, the people telling your children they might have been born in the wrong body. Well, he was over in the heart of Europe, Brussels, the capital of Eurabistan, and he was protesting against the mutilation of children with an attorney from the Alliance Defending Freedom. And, of course, he was arrested. Check this out.
Hey, everyone. This is Billboard Chris here. How's it going? I'm with my good friend Lois McClatchy-Miller from ADF International, and we have quite a scene unfolding in Brussels, Belgium. We have been getting incredibly harassed for about the last hour. We've remained perfectly calm as always, having conversations about what is the greatest child abuse scandal in modern medicine history. We called the police because a man was harassing and following Lois everywhere she went, trying to stop us from filming. The police have now arrived, and they've told me and Lois, they've told us we have to put our signs away.
Yeah, you got to put the signs away. So they were arrested after that. They have since been released, folks. But this is what is going on in Europe, right? I mean, you can no longer protest against the castration of children without finding yourself thrown in jail. And, they love to blabber about freedom of expression. What they mean is freedom of expression as long as you say what your overlords want you to say. The moment you deviate from that, then suddenly it's hate speech, it's misinformation, it's malinformation, whatever, and they will arrest you, folks. This is absolutely crazy. What is happening in the European Union is a disgrace to Western civilization. And, folks, if we're not careful, it will be coming here, guaranteed. Now, some really great news. June 8th was Pentecost Sunday, and all across the United States, massive amounts of baptism. More than 26,000 people baptized across the U.S. in what organizers are saying was the largest synchronized baptism event in the history of the United States. The movement was called Baptize America. Over 650 churches in all 50 states coordinated this effort to have believers declare their faith in Christ through water baptism publicly. So there was 4,000 baptisms, and then 6,000 last year, and then this year 26,000. Pastor Mark Francie, one of the organizers, said this: the prayer of Jesus in John was that we would become one. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, a unity around what we all agree on, which is water baptism. So praise the Lord, folks. It's really exciting times. Before we go to break and our first guest, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Genesis Gold Group. We've been working with them for years, and the co-founder, Jonathan Rose, he knew two things were needed in order to thrive in the extremely competitive precious metals industry today. First was no more of the deceptive marketing tactics that big gold companies have been using for so long. Second, spiritual guidance is absolutely essential if they're going to be trusted by Americans to help protect their life savings. So, Jonathan is a partner. Genesis Gold is a partner. We really appreciate all that they do. I've been buying gold from them for some time now, gold and silver as well. You can find them at goldwithalexnewman.com, goldwithalexnewman.com. Millions of Americans have already grown increasingly concerned about the trajectory that we are on as a nation, and a lot of them are turning to Genesis Gold to help protect some of their savings. So give them a call today. Contact them today. Tell them Alex sent you. They'll waive your IRA fees if you end up putting anything into an IRA. They can also send you a free definitive gold guide to help you protect your savings and your wealth. Get over to goldwithalexnewman.com, goldwithalexnewman.com, and stay with us. We'll be right back on the Sentinel Report.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome to the Sentinel Report. I am Alex Newman. Folks, you know, and I know, that our kids are being brainwashed, not just to submit to tyranny, but to beg for it, to embrace the destruction of their own families, their own countries, their own culture, their own civilization. It's absolutely bonkers. And a lot of parents are just bewildered. You know, what do we do? We're watching the slow motion destruction of our children and everything we hold dear. Well, a friend of mine who was just in the United States recently, her name is Elisabeth Sabaditsch-Wolff. She's an incredible activist. She actually was prosecuted, believe it or not, for the truth, and this was acknowledged in court. Truly incredible story, actually the courts held that the truth is no defense against these charges. True story. We'll let her talk a little bit about it, but she's got a new program called Not Through Me to help mothers protect their children from this madness, and help us get out the other side of this craziness. At least with some sense of who we are. Elisabeth, welcome to the program. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Alex, for having me back. I seem to be a regular guest on your show, and that shows me that you value what I have to say, and I'm truly grateful, for you and your work. Thank you.
Well, thank you. There's not a whole lot of really good freedom fighters left in Europe, unfortunately. So when we find one, it's a treasure. And of course, I've lived many years in different parts of Europe, and I still have some affection for the old continent, as we call it here. But it's just so important what you're doing. So you are in Austria. You are dedicated to preserving freedom of speech. You actually grew up all over the world. You've got a really interesting background. Daughter of a diplomat. You lived all over the Middle East. Iraq, Kuwait,
but
Libya. So you've seen your fair, and the United States as well. That's right. And so we really value the work that you're doing, and you speak, of course, from experience. Talk to us about this program, Not Through Me. I looked through it. It looks really good. Why'd you decide to do it? What's it for?
This came out of a feeling that I've had in my heart for a very long time. When I was prosecuted for speaking the truth, I used to tell fellow parents, well, I'm going to court now, and I'm there to fight for your freedom and your freedom of speech. And people would look at me like, are you crazy? I mean, I'm free anyway. I can do whatever I want. I can buy the latest iPhone. And I was thinking, no, that's not quite what freedom is all about. And throughout the years, the time wasn't really right, but now it is. And so I developed this 6-part video framework for mothers who want to raise free children in an increasingly conformist world. This is what you see. I mean, you, Alex, and so many others see every single day. I want to emphasize that this is definitely not a parenting course, but it is actually a freedom literacy toolkit for mothers who don't really know what it means to be free. Positive freedom, negative freedom, Isaiah Berlin, freedom of speech, but it's not only short, clear chapters, 10 to 15 minutes with historical insight and moral clarity, but it also includes real world examples from both from Europe and the United States. And that's what makes this unique. You know, I look at freedom from the point of view of a European, but I also look at it from an American point of view, because, you know, part of my heart is still in the United States, and I still consider, you know, the US Constitution the greatest living document, breathing document ever written, political document ever written. And so, of course, the U.S. Constitution has a very prominent role in this six-part framework. You're mentioned in that as well. And it's designed for the mother who says, I know something is wrong, but I really don't know where to start to protect my children.
Yeah, and it's desperately needed, folks. You know, in the United States, we still have a lot more options than our cousins over in Europe do. You know, most of us in the United States, we can homeschool our kids. A lot of the Europeans no longer have that freedom, whether you're in Germany or Sweden. Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. So, Elisabeth, we've only got a few minutes left. What do you think the prospects are for freedom surviving in Europe? I mean, it just seems to be getting more and more totalitarian, to the point where, I mean, you even took your case all the way up to the European Court of Human Rights, and they agreed with the Austrian courts that truth is no defense against charges against free speech. Do you think freedom can survive under these conditions, with the European Union coming down on national governments and just an increasing hostility against even basic freedoms like speech, the mass immigration from all over the world? Is it even possible at this point, do you think, for freedom to survive in Europe over the long term?
It's going to be very hard. I'll have to tell you that I'm not very optimistic. However, it ain't over till it's over. We all know that. And if mothers finally come together and say, you know, stop the lie, it's not going to go through me, like, you know, the quote that inspired this course by Solzhenitsyn, who said, let the lie come into the world, but not through me, which means it's a line in the sand. Stop it here. We are mothers. We're going to protect our children. I think there is hope. There always has to be hope. You know, children are our future. But let me also tell you, I was in Brussels exactly 2 weeks ago, and I did see intolerance in action. I attended a very important evening conference on women and conservatism. That's what it was called. It was organized by a conservative Hungarian think tank. And those who profess to be so tolerant and who actually force us to be tolerant, they showed their intolerance by pelting the hotel where the conference was held at by eggs. I mean, egg consumption must have gone up dramatically that night, because some crazies called Antifa pelted the hotel with eggs, and we were unable to actually leave the hotel until police protected us. So that goes to show you that we have a very, very long way to go. And final note, I just returned from CPAC Hungary just 3 days ago, and a totally different picture. It was free, it was calm, it was a brotherhood of like-minded people talking to each other. There was no hatred outside the conference venue. I did a great interview with a Jew who lives both in Hungary and in Brussels, and I hope to bring that out very soon on my X handle. And, you know, what he said was very, very moving about the stark difference between Brussels and Hungary, as you very well know, and you call it the United States of Communism or something similar. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing. But to round this all up and to round it off, it's mothers who need to take a stand, and I want to be a part of this. I need to be a part of this because I'm a mother too. And I equip mothers to say, stop it, not through me. We need to have those children because they are our future. They are the ones who are going to hold the torch of freedom. But first of all, we have to teach mothers. Then we teach the children.
Amen. Yep. And dads, don't forget about your role too. You know, my wife and I, we've got 6 kids. I sent Elisabeth's program over to my wife, and she's going through it. And of course, we all have a role to play in this fight, guys. Take it really seriously. You're so right about Hungary. I was there a few years ago, and it's like a totally different world. It's like what Europe used to be back before all the crazy. And had a nice opportunity. I spent about half an hour with the Secretary of State there, Zoltan Kovacs. I encourage people to go watch that interview. I mean, this is a guy who clearly articulates the principles of liberty and Christianity and sovereignty. It's really, really good to see what's happening in Hungary. And it's really sad to see what's happening in Brussels, where the native population is now a small minority, and where you can't even have a conference. This was happening in Sweden, Germany. You can't even have a conference without the loonies showing up and doing bomb threats on the hotel.
We're talking about a different point of view.
Yep.
And that's not even allowed anymore. And let me also add just how far Brussels has gone. I have been away from Arab Islamic countries for 25 years now. I have not heard this much Arabic spoken since I left Libya 25 years ago. You cannot call an Uber without being confronted with an Abdul Qadir and a Yusuf or an Ali or an Abdullah or whatever. And I was actually snickering to myself thinking, if you guys only knew who was sitting behind you in the car, if you only knew. So, victory.
They would not have gone well.
On the other hand, look, this is, Europe purports to be a free entity, or European Union free entity, and we're all about free speech. Well, let's put it to the test. And they failed miserably once again. It's very depressing. But again, uplifting is we still have the children, and I know that you're doing amazing work on that. So, all the more the merrier. Men, women, it doesn't really matter. It's important that we stand together and protect our kids.
Absolutely. And moms are so critical to this. I mean, moms really help guide the future of their children. And so, folks, pay attention. To your point, Elisabeth, we were just in Sweden a few months ago, and literally the most of the children in Malmö's government school system, their native tongue is Arabic. And it's only getting more and more distorted.
Same in Vienna, by the way. 70% of primary school children in Vienna do not speak German at home. It's hard not to get this.
It's bad, folks. Mohammed is the most popular name across most of Western Europe now for little boys. It's a tough situation, folks, and it's a sneak preview of what's coming for the United States if moms and if dads don't get involved. Elisabeth, we're out of time. Where do people find this program?
The website is thelibertylens.com, and then /not-through-me. And they can also find me on...
And, of course, your memoir, Truth Was My Crime. Oh, very good. Yeah, and folks, follow her on X and her book, Truth Was My Crime, A Life Fighting for Freedom.
It's also available on that
really
website.
Good stuff. Elisabeth, thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I hope we will see you again soon.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, folks, that's it for now. Stay tuned here on the Sentinel Report. We'll be right back.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Folks, you have probably noticed the riots and the protests and the violence escalating all across our country. This is, of course, not happening organically. It's not that people just woke up one day and said, hey, I think I'm going to go outside and burn police cars. This has, of course, been engineered. And ultimately, we need to be clear. The effort aims to overthrow our constitutional republic and replace it with something which the purveyors would like to believe is new and improved, but which, of course, looks a lot like the old and terrible things that we've seen all through the past. Joining us now to discuss is my good friend Hal Sherlip. He's the executive director of Camp Constitution. He's been involved in the fight for preserving our constitutional republic for decades. In fact, he was doing this before I even arrived on this planet, and always grateful to have him on the program. Hal, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Alex.
Great to have you. Hal, what are your thoughts on the riots that we've seen in L.A. and other cities, these, I guess, mostly peaceful protests, if you believe the fake media? And then also, on the other side of this, what do you think about Donald Trump being involved in, I guess, calling out the Marines? Is that an appropriate response to this violence?
So I predicted, hoping that I was wrong in the wake of the Trump victory, that these blue cities in blue states would be rioting. So I guess I was wrong by about 8 months. I lived through the George Floyd riots when I lived in the city of Boston, and I know firsthand how the elected officials will not back the local police. I lived about a half a mile from a police station. The police station got threats from Antifa that they'd be set on fire. They actually barricaded the police department and they boarded up the stores in the neighborhood. I got a hold of my local state senator at the time. I said, are you still a state senator? Did you resign? Does Black Lives Matter now run the city of Boston? Oh, no, of course not. Well, where are you? You should be walking the streets, calming the residents. They're boarding up businesses. So it's not a very good experience when you know that the elected officials do not back the police and certainly don't back the law-abiding citizens. One reason why we moved out of that formerly beautiful and great city.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the response so far, Hal? I mean, Trump has threatened to send in the Marines. We've got National Guard deployed. It seems to me like the revolutionaries backed by the billionaires are hoping there will be blood. They're hoping they'll be able to have another George Floyd type situation so that they can then escalate this even further. I know in the Constitution the president is allowed to call out the militia to execute the laws of the Union if they can't be done in any other way. But what are your thoughts, generally speaking, on how Donald Trump has handled this?
Well, I know back in 2020, Trump really would go to the governors of the states and request to deploy the National Guard, and most of them waited until most of the damage was done. Mm-hmm. But in this case, they're defending government buildings and trying to defend people, federal employees, in this case ICE, to do their duties. So I'm not necessarily happy about it, but I say, what else can you do? Yeah. If the local police, state police, and say LA police are told to stand down, what else can you do? So I think it's difficult. It's a difficult situation to be in. But I know they would love to have a martyr and then have another George Floyd type case. And we know that's all being well funded. It's not, these things aren't spontaneous grassroots. We know it's funded nationally, and they've got all kinds of these protests this weekend coming up on Flag Day, June 14th. And I think the best thing for us, the Patriot movement, is basically, unless you have to, is stay out of these blue cities if you can. Don't go out of your way to confront them. Just go about your business. And, if they get in your way, then you've got to take action. But for the most part, let them have their hissy fits. And I would say most of them will not be violent. I know there's a group not up the road from us. They're all in their 80s and 90s practically. And I'm not expecting a whole lot of violence coming out of that particular segment of the population.
Yeah. And Hal, I think the best way to protect our country against this kind of revolutionary activity, these efforts to overthrow our constitutional republic, is just to teach the young people the truth about our Constitution, about our history, about the principles that underpin our country. And, of course, you do that every year at Camp Constitution and then throughout the year through the activities that you do. Talk to us about Camp Constitution. I know it's coming up in July. I will be there with my family teaching on a number of different topics. A number of wonderful, wonderful teachers will be there. Talk to us about Camp Constitution and how people can get involved if they have young folks in their life and they want to come.
Yes. Well, it's a family camp, and you folks, your whole family's been coming up since 2020, and we consider you a national treasure. It's a week-long family camp, July 13th to the 18th. It's held at the Singing Hills Christian Camp in Plainfield, New Hampshire. Singing Hills, you can visit their website. It's a very nice facility. When people think of, camp, they all have different ideas. They're going to be sitting in a tent, fighting mosquitoes all week, or maybe it's only for children, or it's only for families. But it's a family camp, but we also have unaccompanied minors, usually from ages 13 to 17. And we have a full program starting with classes. Of course, you're teaching 3 classes. So the morning starts off with an optional run or swim, and then we have wake up is at 7. Flagpole, where we have our morning devotions, flag raise. We teach the youngsters and the adults. Some of them don't know how to do it, but proper flag etiquette. We have Willie Soon's son. Willie Soon is one of our instructors, a good friend of both of us, and his son Franklin learned to play the trumpet. He's a very good trumpet player, but he just wanted to learn because he wanted to play reveille and taps at camp. So we start the day with reveille, and sometimes a cannon goes off, and we have a nice breakfast, and then we have 3 classes in the morning, 45 minutes each, with time in between for recreation. And we also have a program for the youngsters, like 5 to 11-year-olds. It's called Patriot Camp, and they learn about our great history and the Constitution at that level. In fact, I got a reporter said, "How do you teach the Constitution a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old?" So I sent him a link to a little song that our youth director wrote, Edith Kraft. It was I got 5. The first, I'm not going to sing it, but she wrote the song about the little kid. They sing 5 rights under the First Amendment, and they name them and they sing it. That's how you teach the Constitution. You make it fun. Although I think learning should be fun for all ages, and we do make it very fun. And then in the afternoon, we have some organized recreation. We have optional marksmanship class. We have one of the top instructors in the country, Keith Hansen of Critical Dynamics, and his colleagues. We have some optional martial arts, as well as a field trip. This year, we're taking a field trip to the Calvin Coolidge Homestead, which is in nearby Vermont. And then some optional classes, and what we don't really call them workshops, but classes. We have basketball, volleyball, wiffle ball. We have a pond, and we also have a pool, like a full pool. And the pond's very popular. I think your boys, especially like Bounty, have this thing called the blob, where they jump about 20 or 30 feet, and it's really great. And then in the after dinner, we have 2 more classes. And then we have campfire, which is very popular. And you play a mean guitar, and you have a very talented family. So it's a full day and a full week. We also have things like room inspection, where we're not just looking for cleanliness, we're looking for themed, patriotic and Christian themes. And it's an optional, well, we make with the dormitories where the boys are, but we also ask the families if they want to participate, that they do that. And we don't pull out the drawers and that kind of thing, like the FBI does. We just look around the room, make sure it's clean, and that's the standard, it's clean. But then we look for themes, and the winner of we post the winner the points every day in the camp newspaper, and then the winner gets free pizza that pizza night on the last full night of camp. We also have Super Camper, where we choose a male and female that we think not just learns a lot in class, but shows leadership, and they get a free tuition or fee for next year. We have Super Counselor, as well as Super Instructor. You got $1 for that one there this year. Willie Soon got it last year. To learn more about it, just go to our website, campconstitution.net. And we still have some space available. And we have people flying in. We got some folks from Alaska. Thanks to Freedom Project Academy, they have sponsored some tuitions or scholarships for 3 families. So we can pick you up at airports or train stations or bus stops and bring you back if necessary. So campconstitution.net. Now for those 13 and over, it's $300 for the whole week. That includes meals, lodging, materials. There's some other expenses if you want to get a snack bar or souvenirs, T-shirts, things like that. And let's see. And for those 12 and under, it's $200. And if you're with your parents, then 3 and under are free. You got a couple of those 3 and under, so at least one, right?
Yep, we got a baby, and the one just turned 4. So we're really looking forward to this, Hal. It's always one of the highlights of our year. And folks out there, I would highly encourage you to come, even if you're not within driving distance of New England. It's a really, really special time. We've gotten to where we wouldn't miss it for anything. Hal, campconstitution.net is the website for people yes, where people can learn more. Campconstitution.net, and then really looking forward to seeing you in mid-July. What were the dates one more time?
What's that?
The dates one more time?
Oh, July 13th, which is a Sunday. The check-in is starts about 4 p.m. and it ends Friday the 18th. Right after breakfast, we kind of clean up and head home.
All right, folks. Mark your calendars.
Not after buying some books from our bookstore at the camp.
Yeah, excellent. Well, really looking forward to it, Hal. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your insights on what's going on in the world, and looking forward to seeing you in July.
Amen. God bless.
God bless you too. All right, folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Are you concerned about your child's education? Have you considered looking into alternatives to public school but don't know where to start? Greater Than I Ministries will give you the tools you need with a free Home Educators Kit and 15% off our Thinking Like a Christian Biblical Worldview video series. Available on DVD or streamed to your home or device, this series will thoroughly equip you and your family with the truth you need about the battle of ideas being waged against our families and our nation. And our free Home Educators Kit will provide you with links directly connecting you with all the resources you need if you're considering rescuing your children from the public indoctrination schools. Go to gtimin.com and click the green banner at the top to receive your free Home Educators Kit and 15% off our Thinking Like a Christian Worldview video series. Again, that's gtimin.com and click the green banner at the top. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. The changes that are happening in military technology, war fighting capabilities are absolutely astounding. I think even people at the cutting edge of these technologies don't fully understand the implications. We have joining us today two very special guests. They're very well known for their takes on prophecy, Bible interpretation, but they're also very well informed on what's going on geopolitically and what's going on in the realm of military technology. Our first guest is Britt Gillette. I follow his work regularly, and I got a post from his Substack. If you're not following it, you should be. But I got a post of his about some of these AI robots, some of these new technologies that are coming out, and I thought I have got to bring him on the program to talk about this. He's been studying Bible prophecy for over 30 years. He's the author of several books on the subject. You can find his Substack at End Times Bible Prophecy with Britt Gillette, and he looks at the headlines of the day through a biblical worldview. We also have with us John Holler. He is very well known in the prophecy world. He is an attorney, of course, but we won't hold that against him. One of the good attorneys, if you could say good attorneys. And he also really focuses on what's going on in the world and analyzing that through a biblical lens. So we're very honored to have our two very special guests. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, really glad to have you guys. Britt, let's start with you. Your Substack post just blew my mind. I knew some of these things were coming, but you had gone in more depth than even a lot of military and technology and computer people that I had seen. You talk about molecular manufacturing, AI robots, these new drone swarms that are going to completely revolutionize warfighting. Give us some sense of what is coming, what's in development, and what that means.
Well, what's coming ultimately, so molecular manufacturing is the ability to manufacture things from the bottom up with atomic precision. Right now, we manufacture things from the top down by breaking components down into other components, gluing them together, fastening them together. But this would enable us to build from the ground up, very rapidly manufacture things. So this would enable the development of mass manufacturing at scale. And so that, combined with AI, quantum computing, these other technologies we see, would allow for the development of much more sophisticated drone swarms than what we see today, deployed at scale and wave after wave. Frankly, you could manufacture on the battlefield once this is developed. I think that the world is mostly going to wake up to this technology when it's developed and used, much like most of the world was unaware of the prospect of atomic weapons until they were used in World War II. And so that has profound implications for Bible prophecy. We can talk about that in a moment, but I think what's coming ultimately is when we think of drone swarms, we think of what we see on TV. This is the early moments. These are very rudimentary drones that we're looking at today. We're going to see much smaller, more sophisticated drones developed in the days, months, years ahead, down to the scale where I believe that, think of a swarm of bees, and that swarm is mechanized, it's controlled by AI, it's decentralized. So again, if you fire a weapon at a swarm of bees, maybe you take a bee or two out, but the swarm's still coming after you. And so that's the type of weaponry we're looking at in the near future. already with what we have with drone warfare now, it's rendered most conventional weapons obsolete. We see that on the battlefield in Russia, Ukraine. We see that in the Red Sea, where the mighty U.S. Navy has been unable to open up the Red Sea to the pre-Houthi attack traffic that we saw a year and a half ago. And so conventional weaponry is obsolete in the face of drone warfare.
All right, so my pump-action shotgun is not going to keep me safe from the drone swarms that the new VUD order will have soon. That's troubling. We'll have to go back to Plan B. John, I want to turn to you now. I know you've got a lot of sources in military, intelligence, security. I know you're tracking carefully the different conflicts around the world in the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine. What do you think these emerging technologies mean? I mean, obviously, these kinds of weapons would seem to make nuclear weaponry almost obsolete. A lot of our conventional arsenals obsolete. What does this mean for the geopolitical order? And as far as you know, who is leading in these technologies?
Well, it's difficult. I think right now, in terms of, I'll start with your last question first. Who's leading in these technologies? I know that the nature of warfare is changing. It's becoming very asymmetrical. The drone manufacturing can be set up anywhere, and we've seen recent examples of Ukraine, and then reports from the recent Israel-Iran dust-up that Israel had, like Ukraine had, established drone manufacturing facilities near the targets. Drones have a very limited range, so countries are trying to work on this. China has developed a drone craft carrier, I guess you would call it. But then again, the question is, how effective are large ocean-going vessels going to be when a hypersonic missile or a drone swarm could really disable them through maybe just a small, I don't even know if anybody's talked about this, a small minor EMP attack that would disable their electronics. So warfare is changing greatly. With respect to China, they've developed these large barges to do troop landing in Taiwan, but they're sitting ducks now. I mean, and if you're trying to establish a bridge, there's a single point that you have to take out the bridge, and then the whole thing is disabled. So I think the days of massive land invasions like we saw in Normandy just 81 years ago, I think those days are really gone forever. And I'm not sure what it means. But if you look at it in terms of Bible prophecy, I will just quickly say this. It talks in Ezekiel 38, one of the major battles of the end times that is coming, and we can argue about exactly when that is. There's a lot of different views, but it does says they come up like a cloud. And I'm wondering when I read that is if that's what Ezekiel looked down the corridors of time and saw, and that's how he was describing what he saw. And was he describing drone warfare? I think it's very possible that we certainly cannot exclude that possibility any longer.
Yeah, and as soon as you mentioned that, it clicked, wow, yes, that could absolutely be a good explanation for that. Britt, turning back to you, what do we do as Christians with this? I mean, none of us have really the ability to change these trajectories, but how do we process this? What does it mean for us as individuals, for our families, even for our nations? How do we deal with this?
Well, from a Bible prophecy standpoint, I see this very, very clearly. So when these advanced technologies reach critical mass, when we see molecular manufacturing be developed, I believe there's two choices whoever develops that will have. One, they can use that power to completely dominate the globe and set up an impregnable global empire, or they can allow a second competing power to develop. But you won't have the doctrine of mutual assured destruction in place that we've had post-World War II. You would have a very volatile situation where you have exponentially advancing technology that leads to each side trying to figure out, is the other one going to attack me first? It would ultimately result in probably the extinction of humanity. So I believe given those are really the two choices. I believe whoever develops this will use it to conquer the world. If you've read your Bible, that should make your ears perk up, because we read in the book of Revelation about one man who controls the entire globe. And we read in Revelation 6 that there is a World War III. Doesn't end with the obliteration of humanity. That's the conventional wisdom now. And so this tells us how close we are to these things. Most people are oblivious to it. I think what Christians should be doing is they should be filled with a sense of urgency to share the good news of Jesus Christ, to share the gospel. You know, the Bible tells us we should all be prepared to share the hope we have in Jesus Christ. And I think that's exactly what we should be doing. You know, forget preparing. I mean, yes, I'm in favor of preparing, but we need to be sharing the gospel because we know the times in which we live.
Amen. John, same question to you. What should we do with this information? How does that change the way we live, if it does at all?
Well, I like what Britt said about preparing, sharing, and I would add also caring, that it is a time that we can minister to others. I mean, you know, there's a lot of disruption everywhere that you look, and we look at on the technology side, it's very concerning. We see the government giving all of our data to consolidate under the control of Palantir and the technocrats that seem to be involved. And I understand that. The quandary is, how do we regulate it or slow it down on our government when everybody else is doing it in an unregulated fashion? And so the fact of the matter is, this is coming, it's here, we're going to have to deal with it. And I really think that Christians need to sort of reorient themselves. I hate to say reorient themselves to be prepared to be martyrs, but this is happening all over the world. And we need to understand too that the hope of the Christian is not limited to this life. So remember, there's the verse of the Bible, you know, don't fear the one who can kill your body. Fear the one who can destroy your soul in hell forever. And so we need to kind of reorient our thinking a little bit. And I will say, I study this thing. It's very concerning. But strangely, and I don't think it's strangely, it's what God promises, I have this peace about what's going on. So I talk about all of this turmoil, but internally I'm at peace. I know that's a little bit hard to understand, but I really am.
Yeah, I think for the non-Christian, that's impossible to understand. What do you mean you're at peace while the world is burning around you? I agree with you 100%, John. I read Fox's Book of Martyrs to my children, even brothers and sisters from my church. Like, what are you doing? You're going to scar them. Like, yeah, but we don't know exactly what's coming. We want them to be prepared. We want them to understand that all throughout the history of the church, Christians have been persecuted and attacked, and we may well see more stuff like that. Gentlemen, it's been a real honor and a pleasure. John, I know a lot of your videos, I have seen them over at Fellowship Bible Chapel. You guys have a great YouTube channel. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know how bad the algorithm is, but folks, go check that out. John, where else can people follow your work?
Real FBC, and I do stream occasionally when we stream, like I'm doing another roundtable with Britt and some others on technology and technocracy coming up. We do those on a fairly regular basis. So I've been trying to stream those to X and Telegram, and also Rumble. Real FBC is the channel on Rumble.
Excellent. Guys, go check it out. He does the prophecy updates that are really, really good. Keep you up to speed on what's going on in the world, but from a biblical perspective, not from a fear-mongering perspective. Really, really good information. And Britt, you have obviously a wonderful Substack. What is the best way for people to follow your work?
Yeah, the best place to go is brittgillette.substack.com. That's where they'll find everything that I put out.
Excellent. Folks, go check out both of those sources. We live in really weird, really confusing times, but when you look at it all from a biblical perspective, suddenly it's not so troubling. Gentlemen, it's been a great honor to have you on. I hope we can get you back on to discuss these things as they develop, but thank you once again for joining us. Really an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these quick messages here on the Sentinel Report.
Your children are your legacy. Treat them as such. When you homeschool with Classical Conversations, they connect you with a local community of like-minded families who not only learn together, but do life together. They equip homeschool parents just like you or grandparents with the confidence to raise bright, observant students who have a lifelong love of learning. Please visit classicalconversations.com/LSM to learn more.
That's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you all so much. And please, guys, get involved. Don't just absorb the information and get mad. Go out and do something. Go to libertysentinel.org. Go to thenewamerican.com. Get involved somehow. Get involved with your church. Get involved with your local elected officials. Get involved with your local party. Whatever it takes to do something constructive for the glory of God and the good of the church, our nation, our families, and so much more. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Alex Newman. This is the Sentinel Report. God bless you all.